Blah, blah. Alright. Going live without the microphone hooked up. I'm a genius. Fix this. Alright. Canada is great except for the zombies Tenchi special. Actually, I think maybe you guys can see the cord this time. I'm almost out of matches. Anyways, hey guys. So, we're outside, it's raining, you're attached to a doorknob, I'm sitting in the rain. Hey Tenchi. See, Tenchi special. And someone else is here. Hello, someone else. But yeah, so if I put my hood up, it's because I'm getting rained on. I don't feel the cold as much, but I still feel the rain. Yeah. I just went up. Hey, Garen. I don't know if you guys can hear them, but the crows are having a little feud with the Blue Jays. And I'm getting rained on. In case you've been wondering, this is why I haven't been doing these in a little while, because it's been raining for about a week and a half straight. With a few times where it hasn't been. So, on those times, I've been working on Mander's birthday present, making him a Taiaha, which he has named Stickrick. So, ha, nice. I can't remember where I got it from, but it might actually be. One of the other things is I don't smoke as much as I used to, so I usually just do it when I'm doing my story, so I miss this. Anyway, I'm sitting on a tiny ass little stool, which is super uncomfortable. So, we need to get this pipe going, otherwise the story sucks. There we go. Alright, so I was trying to think of a good one for a soggy day like this, and there were two of them, but magpie. But I think the best one is when I was up in northern Manitoba. Now, there's a town up there called Churchill. And if you haven't heard of it, shut up. Magpie. Either shut up or come watch. Churchill's the place where, like, you actually have to watch out for polar bears. It's actually a pretty cool place. But there's a little town, hamlet, south of there that basically has no name. It's part of a little municipal district. And I got called out there one time. Right? All right, Blue Jay, come on down then. There's a pair of Blue Jays. I think they're mated. And they attack the magpies all the time. It's hilarious. I've put out peanuts, and I'll go inside because they're not quite comfortable with me yet. And one will come up, grab a peanut, fly away. Other one comes up, grabs a peanut, flies away. It's kind of cute. But yeah, so this little town. Come on in. I'm gonna keep getting distracted by them. Sorry. This little town. Oh yeah. I still have an ounce of it left over. So, and I might pick up their Tolkien, which is that Burley Light. Next time, we'll see. Oh, it's so good. I don't have a coffee this time. But, yeah, this little town, it's in Municipal District 1034. Which, by the way, doesn't show up on a map because it's about that big. Anyways, I got a call to go out there, so I flew into Churchill. which is pretty much the only way to get in. Even in the summertime, you sometimes have to use a snowmobile. So I go into Churchill, and I hop on a boat, which is just like a little outboard that someone had set up for me there. And you basically go down the river. It's the Hudson's Bay, but there's a little river that goes just parallel to it almost. You go down the river about 45 minutes. When you get off, and you hike west-southwest for about an hour and a half. And that's when you get to this little middle of nowhere. Unfortunately, by the time I got there was nobody there. So nobody could really tell me what was going wrong. So I kind of, end of the world movie style. And now I did, thankfully I was allowed to bring a kit, but we were limited by weight. So it was one machete, all the lamps, because light is important. Pro tip. You know how some things need a circle of salt to keep them out or to keep you safe? Fill an inner tube with salt. And you can actually just pack it up, and then when you need it, you literally can throw it on the ground, step inside, or throw it over top. I've seen people use a hula hoop full of salt too when they need a bigger circle. I thought that was a genius idea when they told me about it. But yeah, I had one of those kind of strapped on me like a bandolier. I had my tack pack, which is about 2 days worth of food, fire supplies, all of that stuff, as well as some sage, tobacco, your typical mystic accoutrement, some silver, powdered silver, of which was actually kind of cool shit to get, but really expensive. I actually had to expense that because it was 1 ounce of powdered silver, and I mean like, so that was about $1,800. Pain in the ass to get in a little glass vial. Hydrate comes in a little glass vial, but yeah. So I was pretty much well decked out. But I was limited to 1 machete. I had a camp axe as a just in case. Basically, in case I needed to make a shelter and stuff, I had some extra things. Because they told me I was going to have to go into the bush. Guys, you could just come over here. I have food. But yeah. Anyways, pull out the machete, hatchet in the left hand, lamp on my head, flashlight going, clipped to my backpack, and I started walking through all these abandoned, and they're basically shacks. There's no running water here. For a while in Churchill, there wasn't any running water. There's no running water. And the stoves are either propane or wood. And there's a lot more wood than propane because everything had to be brought in, and Churchill's the closest. And getting anything to Churchill is like fly in. Because you don't really cross the Hudson's. Tenchi was mentioning that for the colloidal silver. Now, I don't know about colloidal silver, but I do know silver nitrate works somewhat. But yeah, I haven't tried colloidal silver, and I haven't read anything in my notes. Silver nitrate added to tattoos, added to the ink, apparently does kind of allows spells to be tattooed and stuff like that. And I had my Phoenix touched up with a little silver nitrate in it to help with Mr. W. So yeah, that was fun. Actually healed really quick, which is really weird. I wouldn't recommend it normally though. Only if your tattooist is crazy. Because I just remember the movie The Tattooist, where it's like a cursed tattoo needle. But yeah, anyways, I'm walking around, and I've probably gone through about 3 or 4 shacks at this point. And I mean, they are literally shacks. They're I don't know if you've ever read or even had to experience some of the older settlements, but like they would buy cardboard and put it on the wall to keep the wind out and the insulation. That's what these were like. There was blankets over the inside of the doors and over the outside entranceways and stuff like that to insulate as best they can. The wood stoves were almost always going. Everything there was cold. Wood stoves were done. Every house was cold. So obviously, either everyone was completely gone the bad way, or gone as in they ran away. I was hoping they ran away. So there's about a dozen. Yep. Yeah. I also remember a character called Tattoo, I think. Tattoo's came to life. It's fucked up. But I think there were about a dozen or so huts, shacks, whatever. And there was one that was kind of a little bit closer to the wood. They were kind of. They're not really built in a circle. They're really just built in almost a straight line. They follow the ground as best they can, of course. Because, I mean, you're building a shack. You want it to be as easy as possible. So, I looked underneath every single one of them. They all had crawl spaces and stuff. Yeah, right? And, one of the crows is watching me now. And, there was nothing under there. Like I said, there was no indoor plumbing, nothing like that. Each house had its own little outhouse, and some didn't even seem to have that. And checking the outhouses was gross, but there was nothing. But I come up to this one little hut, and it's kind of... I think that's what he means. There was also a character in Overlord, the anime, that had the same thing. His tattoos all came to life. He died easily. Killed by a butler. But, it wasn't even, like, the last hut I was going to check. But it was kind of off to one side, and there was no, like, mirror hut on the other side. So I do the one side, and I get to this one. And it's cold. But I found something kind of weird. Kind of weird. Bones. Human bones. How could I tell? It was a hand. Now, bears' bones from their paws sometimes do it. How do I buy the extended Randy Cane machete? Oh, you have to email Miles directly. He's only offering those two as the normal sales. But if you email Miles, he might actually do them on a case-by-case basis. He probably won't do a sheath for them, but yeah, you can email him that way. Miles@areniac.com? I can't remember. But his email address is on his website. Where did I put my matches? Pipe's gone out. But yeah, human hands, well, one, sitting on the inside of this place. Yeah, no worries. Sitting on the inside of this dude's place. I'll say dude. I mean, I'm assuming it was a dude, but it could have been an auntie for all I know. That's better. But yeah. So, I looked through the rest of this guy's house, shack. They're usually like one room or two room. Depends how big it is. But I couldn't really find anything. So I looked through the rest of the huts and everything. Now, there's few dead zones for that cell phone that they gave me. But this place is in the middle of nowhere. And I don't know if you've ever been to the Hudson's Bay, but for instance, if you go to Churchill, you can see the aurora quite beautifully. But you also end up with like weird radio reception and stuff like that. A lot of people have heard things on the radio that they can't really explain. Well, the cell phone was crapping out on this thing. So I decided to go back to that one hut that had the activity and just hunker down for the night. So lit the fire, It was freezing cold, by the way. It was like April, but it was still freezing cold because that far north, it doesn't really get much above freezing. Mm-hmm. I've seen a fruit made of forearm bone once. Bone daggers also. I don't think I've seen one made from a human, but I've seen bone daggers. Yeah, basically it is permafrost territory. One of the reasons you build up from the ground is so that you don't melt the permafrost underneath and your house doesn't go. So, but yeah. And I mean, it was fucking cold. So I stoked the fire as much as I could in the, it was what are they called? Potbelly stoves. And just kind of hunkered down near that. I grabbed the bedding off the bed and just kind of covered up. Now, usually I carry a few things with me for security and stuff. Now, one of them is this little pack light, which has a motion sensor on it, and it's really handy. Just come on over, and they're really really handy. I mean, when you're camping, they help you like find the bathroom, but when you're not wanting to get snuck up on, and even if something's not going to, like, say it's ethereal or something like that, and it's not going to do a tripwire or anything, for some reason there's still a motion. So unless something is completely invisible and you're completely fucked at that point, hunted by the predator, these things will pick it up. So I shut them out. Come on back, tobacco. And at about 3 or 4 in the morning, I don't even really remember what time, I was dozing, but the lights come on, and I woke up. And all you could kind of hear was this, well, sort of like this. And that was enough to freak me the fuck out. I bolt upright, machete and axe, and I head towards the door. There's no peepholes on these doors. The windows are pretty much, they're really small windows. They let in light, but windows are also really bad for letting in cold and shit. So, there's not a lot you can see out of them. But I can see the light coming in through one of the windows, and I decide to take a look. New experience. Now you remember, I told you skells suck. Well, I look out the goddamn window, and there's a skeleton. Not held together by anything. Reaching towards the door. And it's doing the creepy ass. It's my pipe on the door you're on. And I don't even know if you can hear it with this. It sounds like this. Yeah, but the willow bark one, ironically enough, gives me a headache. And knick doesn't taste as good. Oh, good. But yeah, so I look out the window and I see scales. Now I hate scales. Not so much that they're like, right? Exactly. Because they're, what the fuck is holding them together, right? And that's always been my first thought. What the fuck is holding these things together? And it actually depends on the scale. Well, these ones, I can tell. Just looking at them, blanched bones that look like, they've been frozen, mummified, and stripped of everything. Ligaments, flesh. There's nothing. And some of them have perfect teeth. You know how rare that is? Like actual perfect teeth. Not like plaque build-up perfect teeth that you would get from like the Middle Ages, where they're like really worn down, but they got huge plaque. Um, no, like perfect teeth, as in like either someone's idea of skeletons or relatively healthy people. So I have no idea at this point what my game plan is going to be. So all I do is look around. Now, northern communities tend to have very limited supplies. So you get a lot of the whole, you make do with what you can get. One thing that always makes food taste better. Pretty sure you guys can guess. Salt. I had a big old tub. Like, you remember you can get them from the dollar store. They're like this big, little flip top. I figure it's worth a shot. So I grab it. I open the door with one hand. I smack the skeleton in the head with a machete, and then toss the salt on. It sort of worked. I think the machete was almost more effective, but it sort of hurt him. I kind of reeled back a little bit. So I took an idea from that, and a bandolier was off and by the fireplace. So I did a ring of salt around me and then salt across the threshold. And they couldn't get past that. So I basically spent that first night with all these skeletons trying to get in through the front door. Now, salt on the door, on the threshold, is supposed to keep the devil from your door, right? Like, it's an old wives' tale, but it worked. But it usually, like, the door is the entranceway to your house for most non-normal, supernatural or supranatural or whatever you want to call them. The door is the way in. That's why you don't invite people or things in through the door. I don't know how you would invite them in through the window unless they're like there for a date. Whatever. So that whole first night I spent watching these skells. Now occasionally I would put some salt in my hand and I would throw it at them to see their reactions. Wasn't long before I noticed that the salt did actually hurt them somehow. It was like it gritted them up like they were robots. But the sun came up at about, I don't know, about 5:30 that morning. Right? Sun came up at about 5:30 that morning. And they started walking away. Pipes out. So it wasn't the brightest idea I ever had, but I decided to follow him for a little bit. Now, what they did was they walked to the edge of town and poof. Like they just fart in the wind, disappeared. Get to the edge of town and that's it. They didn't even really like transition or, like, what was it? Last Unicorn kind of thing, steps into the mist and transitions, that kind of thing. No. Poof, gone. As soon as they crossed the town. Now, I pretty much figured there was no way in hell I had enough salt to circle the entire town. And with Skell's fire doesn't work, I bashed that fucker in the head with my machete. By the way, he took my machete. Have you ever tried getting a machete out of bone? Yeah, it's really, really difficult, especially when you've managed to bury it in the thickest bone in the head. So I got a hatchet, I got a field knife, which was just a Mora. Monster hunting with Mora. Don't laugh, it's doable, but yeah. And I've got a few other supplies. So I figured that maybe the day was a thing, like they wouldn't come back during the day. So I searched the rest of the shacks. I did actually grab all the salt I could. I also found some sage, some, what the hell is that stuff? Pennyroyal, and a few local herbs and stuff like that. One of the women had to have been a medicine woman because she actually had like a traditional role. I looked through everyone's books. There was uh, like a couple of the shacks had generators and stuff like that, and those ones had TVs and computers and so on and so forth. But there was no signal, no nothing. Computers had like porn. There was no skeleton porn. That would just be weird. Hey, baby, I'm gonna bone you. Oh God, I can't believe I made that joke. But yeah, I looked through everything. I couldn't really find anything. I figured the only person who really had any sort of like elder connection or shamanistic connection was the medicine woman. So I went back to her place, and short of tearing down the walls, I looked through everything, and I couldn't find anything. Um, so, hmm, well, I was hungry at this point. I went back to the one man's shack. I grabbed all my stuff, and I decided the medicine woman's would be the place to go. Starting to spit again. Ha, pretty close. Um, Went back to the medicine woman's hut and started up her stove, cooked some of my food, and then I found her cold box, which is basically it's it's like a cold cellar in the ground, and what she's done was lined it with concrete and then metal, and it stayed really really cold. And I found some meat down there, salted, of course. And no, I didn't beat them with the meat. I'm gonna bone you. Well, I'm gonna beat you with my meat. No, 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 no. But what I did actually find was a little note stuck to the wall. It was a shopping list. And I looked at one of them and I see this little thing and it says turquoise. I hadn't seen any turquoise around there. Now, turquoise for the Apache, for instance, is a very powerful stone. So I was wondering if maybe this worked. Now, it sounds weird, but I worked in geology up until recently, and I even studied it when I was younger. Uh, so I see I worked in geology. My degree's in psychology, but I worked in the geology department at my U of A. But one of the first things you do in Geology 101 is you get this little hardness kit, and one of the hardness stones was turquoise. And I always ended up carrying those with me, just because sometimes you need to figure out if a stone is of particular hardness, and sometimes you need to figure out whether or not the tooth that you've just found is from something dead, not dead, or other. And yes, some teeth are harder than others. If you can scratch it with a diamond, it's a little freaky. Hey, Karamba Kid. But yeah, so anyways, I went through the whole thing. I suppose it would depend whether or not it crystallized on the club. But yeah, I went through the whole thing and I found the little piece of turquoise. Now, there wasn't really anything else to do that night. So I hunkered down and salted the threshold, made up some stew, which was actually pretty good stuff. It was from a Russian IRP. And then sat down and just waited for them to show up. I literally left the door open with the blanket down and just over a little bit, and then those security lights out so I could see them when they were coming in. But about 3 in the morning, they showed up again, but they didn't come to the medicine woman's house. They went to the dude's house again. And I was thinking maybe someone sicked them on this guy. Now, there's not really any information on the settlement. There's no information in the shacks of like who lived, where. There's like no berries on the door or anything like that. Like, it's a community of 13 shacks. I'm fairly certain everyone knows everybody, other than finding a couple of maps where their trap lines were and a compass. I found one compass. There wasn't anything in there. the spitting has stopped. So, right, like that's pretty much the only thing I could figure. And I thought of something kind of weird because I saw at the very end of this line was one of the scales handless, missing its right hand. And I thought of the dumbest thing ever. Maybe they just want their hand back. It sounds really, really dumb. But what I did was I ran at them. Now I had the bandolier, the inner tube filled with salt, literally just like right around my waist. So I was my own lucky little ring of salt. Kind of fucked up, a little bit funny. It was like playing bumper cars with these things. Yeah, I'm smiling now. At the time, I was hoping it was going to work, but as soon as I started walking through them, they kind of like just moved aside. And I walk into that one shack. Now, they're not locked up or anything like that. They basically have like a crappy doorknob on them. And a couple don't even have that. They just have like the little wooden latch. Told you, like barely even a hamlet. And I walk inside and I grabbed. Oh, this is Canada's great except for the zombies. Confused? Yeah, I could totally see that. I would recommend going back and watching from episode 1, and then watch the other lives. I do have some more Massalongs coming up, so not in this video, obviously. But yeah, I ended up running inside and I grabbed the hand. No worries, dude. It's a supernatural story time. Think of it like that. But yeah, I grabbed the hand, and Garen, you're gonna kind of like this, and Tenchi, you're gonna kind of not like it, but this is what I ended up doing. Now, I told you that river kind of ran parallel, right? Well, I figured I'd run, and I would jump in the river, which, by the way, is a stupid idea, because it's cold. But maybe these guys would follow me and, like, disappear, and the hand would disappear, and, you know, like, they'd just go away, and they wouldn't come back. Yeah, no, that was a really, really dumb idea. I ran, and I ran past the, essentially the boundary of the town, and I ran into the woods. Now, I knew the general direction, head this way, and, you know, that's roughly where your boat was. And I knew that another 3 kilometers beyond that was Hudson's Bay. Now, the river is a tidal river, so I kind of run towards it, and my boat's not there, and these fuckers are following me. There's about, now I never actually got an exact count, but there was about 7 or 8 of them. So I didn't think the town had turned into zombies. I'm going to put that out there. But something had happened. Anyways, I ran to the river to where I figured I had set up my canoe. Now, usually if I'm borrowing something, I'll put a GPS tracker on it, and I can find it that way, but this whole place felt like a dead zone because the GPS tracker wasn't working. I had a GPS burst transmitter on here, on my backpack. It wasn't working. The cell phone wasn't working. It was a dead zone. So I go up and down the river just a little bit, about 500 meters, and I can hear the scales coming in through the brush. Now, like I said, it depends on the scale, but like these things just seem to be as strong as a normal person. They were moving about as fast as someone kind of fast walking, but I don't think they dealt with the underbrush very well. Because, I mean, I could lift my legs up. They just seemed to walk. There are Peanuts. She's just sitting there. I think she's watching the story too. But yeah. Anyways, I made it to the spot where I had tied up my boat. And the tree I had tied it off to was not there. And my boat was gone. So I was pretty much fucked. So, thinking really stupidly, I ran into the river and froze my balls off almost instantly. Like, it was cold. Like, there's a type of cold that just, you freeze up. This was beyond that. I made it to the other side, And I was hoping maybe we'd have an Ichabod moment where someone can't cross running water. Nope, not at all. I'm still holding this thing's hand. And by the way, how the hell do bones of a hand stay together afterwards? I don't know. Whatever was animating these things was keeping this hand in one piece. Thankfully, it wasn't doing like the creepy idle hands thing, because I don't know if I could have dealt with that. But they walked into the river. Now, the river, like I said, was kind of tidal, and obviously, tide had gone out and taken my boat with it at some point. Boat and the tree. Why didn't I pull it up on the bank? There's no bank here, really. There's like tree, river. And the river's not very wide. It was like, you might call it a creek. It was about 150 meters wide. It's a wide creek, but still. But as soon as these things kind of stepped in, I noticed they slowed down quite a bit. They weren't having any issue with any of the current or anything because they were going perfectly straight, but they slowed. And I hit on an idea. 3 kilometers. How fast can you run 3 kilometers through the bush? 3 kilometers through the bush, hauling my backpack, camp axe, and a bony ass hand. It took me about an hour with scales on my ass the whole time. Thankfully, slightly slower. I made it all the way to the fucking Hudson's Bay. I couldn't think of going into there. Hudson's Bay is cold. Fucking cold. Hudson's Bay gets icebergs at this time of year, by the way, especially right around Churchill. You actually get icebergs and shit. So I waited on the beach for them. They showed up, and I threw the hand into the Hudson's Bay. I expected them all to just fucking walk in there. That didn't work. The one with Stumpy, we'll call him Stumpy, right? The one without his hand walked right in there. Yay! Part of the idea made sense. I took off my bandolier and I ran at these things. And I just hooked them and ran. Skeletons shouldn't weigh much, right? Like, our bones, once they're dried out, what, like 5 kilos, maybe? Maybe 10 kilos? No, these things, it was like moving a fully grown human. Every time I grab one, I'd run into the bank, twirl, and they'd fall apart. It took way too long. If you ever get whacked with a bony hand, like someone's just got a really bony hand and they whack you, it hurts, right? Like, it's just this thunk. It's like getting elbowed, only not as painful, not as thumpy. I got hit, I don't even know how many goddamn times. But finally, at the end of all this, I get the last one in there. Now, you think I would have been paying attention, counting or something like that? Fuck no. Not a goddamn thing. I just went until there were no more. The sun had been up for probably about an hour by the time we were done with this. And you'd think the sun would have taken care of them. I figured whatever I had done, taking that hand out, kind of stopped them from getting tied to an area and maybe to that dusk till dawn kind of thing. At least with vampires, you know, sunrises, they're going to fry. Unless they're Jiangxi, but I'll get to them at some point. Jiangxi are like vampire zombies. They're fun. Actually, they're really dumb, but they're really hard. Anyways, the sun's up. I'm exhausted. I got my pack. It's 4 kilometers back through the bush to the town, to the settlement. We'll just call it a settlement. It's just easier. I said, fuck it. I pulled out the little emergency bag, the SOL emergency bivvy, which I always keep one just in case. I pulled out pretty much everything survival related from my bag. I found a couple of downed logs, put up a little shelter. I don't know if you guys can hear the rain, but it's just about touching the camera, which is fine because the story's just about over. and I made a fire right then and there. Now, the upside about Hudson's Bay, especially, only being, oh Christ, as the crow flies, as you fly, I was probably only 12, 15 kilometers from Churchill. So, getting the fire going, I got some food going, and I threw her a cracker. She stuffed it in the water, and now she's eating the cracker rather than coming up here for peanuts. But I got all that going, and then I figured I'd try the cell phone. It still was kind of having issues, but you could at least send a text. And I pulled out a flare gun and fired a purple flare into the air. Now it's sunlight, but usually it's around the bay, it's quite diffuse, right? I never actually did find out what had summoned them. My final report that went in just included the entire facts. Someone else usually does research just in case. The medicine woman, I do know, and she was a medicine woman as we found out. I had to meet her in Churchill to give her back her bundle, but she didn't speak any English, and her French was kind of broken, and there was no one around really to translate for her. But I figured she probably knew what was going on, and I kind of figured she probably did speak a little English because most of that grocery list was written in English. I kind of got annoyed though when I handed back all of her stuff. I gave her my topaz, and she goes, "Ah," and points to her earring. She had an earring with the topaz in it, and the other one had fallen out. So I kind of got annoyed. I thought the topaz was going to be all special. Yeah, no. I didn't even get a chance to freaking use it. But she got an earring out of it. Gave her all her stuff back. But yeah, the purple flare had been enough that some of the local fishermen swung by. And they found me sitting there with my food on the fire, basically getting ready to just shelter in place for a while. I grabbed my food off the fire. I hop in. I said, "Can we go to Churchill?" And they said, "Sure." That would actually be kind of cool. Now, how well would it hold up, I guess? Probably fairly well against your average scale. Trying to think of other things that salt sucks against, but I'll have to check my notes. I never even thought of that. Those, Himalayan sea salt stuff, the ones that are pre-drilled for the candles, you could just fill that with epoxy and stick a, I don't know, hickory handle or something like that in there. Guys want to see that? Got a couple of those. I could probably try them out. But yeah, finally we made it back to Churchill. I crashed. I actually have a friend of the family, who lives in Churchill with her husband. Now I crashed on their couch for about a day and a half before the next flight out. And in that whole time, I just wrote up the report. Oh, and for those who, right, it'd be pretty brittle, but they're pretty thick too. Depends on the wall, I guess. I imagine sometimes you guys are wondering how I submit reports and stuff. I don't do emails in. I literally write up the reports and I send it to a P.O. box. P.O. box is in Edmonton, so I figured they got someone who picks it up and like either transcribes it on their system or whatever. But yeah, that's how I submit my reports. But yeah, skills, pain in the ass. Now there are other types, and I do have other stories about them. But yeah. But actually, now that I think of it, I should go visit Kiana in Churchill. It's been a while since I was up there. I'm not going to that village. Yes, we all hear how tiny a penis you have. Jack-offs. But yeah, if you do go up to Churchill, I don't know if you really have to worry about the zombies, but Watch out for polar bears, man. And don't go in winter. It's fucking cold in winter. Been up there once in winter. It's fucking cold. Walk outside. Doesn't matter how thick of a parka or how big of a skidoo suit you're wearing. Your balls freeze instantly. I've had my neck muscles freeze. But, yeah. Anyways, that's about it for this one. You know, Canada's great, except for the zombies. But if you're in Churchill, worry about the polar bears more, because you probably don't have any problems with the zombies. Ooh, rock salt hawkhead. Well, that might be. Hey, Rob. Rock salt hawkhead. Hmm. I think that might break a little too easily because you got. If you've got any of the force that's off to one side, it's going to shear, right? Yeah. I'm trying to think. I mean, I suppose you could. All right, give me a sec. Attach this. I sort of have an idea on that, Karen. Ugh. It's ringing. Alright. Ah, damn, I missed whatever that comment was. Right? Well, this is buzzsaw. Made out of white maple. And yeah, I made her. There was a void in the handle, so I put a little. Right? I'll make you one if you want. Just got to get it to you. There's a void in this part, so I put some epoxy, and you can actually see right through her. She cuts. I actually have footage of testing her Kona, which is this little hand axe, and the patu and everything. Now, you could, like what I did here, was I just kind of carved out this little bit. But I suppose what you could do is carve out a strip and inlay, well, like you can inlay silver and stuff like that on steel blades. Thank you. Yeah, I have to admit I'm really proud of this one because I actually looked at the grain for compression and so on. But you could inlay, like I suppose you could even inlay in between these teeth, and yeah, they will tear. This will cut and it will kill. You could inlay in between these teeth, like salt or something like that, or metal. Or you could do like the jaguar hunters used to do. They would have like their hardwood and they put obsidian in there. I suppose you could put like salt. And then something like that would work. You'd have a backup. Like this is solid enough on our own. But, you know, you could have the little chunks of rock salt in there. I was actually planning on doing something like this and not glass, because I've cut myself on obsidian and broken glass before, but I picked up those little discs you use for crafts, like cutting leather and stuff, and I was thinking of interspersing some of them on a wood mallet or axe or something like that. But yeah, I suppose you could if you put strips of salt like that, so long as you can get it to touch the scale, it should work. The bug assault, that might be fun. Rob's got that one, right? So you could always use that, I guess. But yeah, I'm trying to think if there's any other way to impregnate salt. Well, I mean, I've seen shotguns with rock salt in them, but it tends to powder. High purity quartz, right? Now, let's see. Hardness of 7, so you could also use chert. You could use flint. Obviously, obsidian will work too. I mean, diamond would be great for hardness, but intermixed with salt to increase its strength. I don't know. But I imagine if you mixed in, you made not like a slurry, but kind of like spackle. I'm looking at the spackle on the outside of my house, with epoxy and rock salt mixed in. So long as you placed the rock salt on top, like embedded it in the epoxy. So, it really depends on the culture. Uh, Quartz usually does, especially like tiger eye and rose. Turquoise, among Apache, Yaqui, Sioux, almost all um, Native Americans and amongst most First Nations. Um, Ironically enough, yeah, tourmaline. Uh, Diamond tends not to. Calcite amongst some, fluorite amongst some. Oh, what else? Uh, Hematite for its iron content usually does. Amethyst. Citrin, yeah. Trying to remember what the hell my birthstone is. Because it does too. Oh my god, that's sad. It's pissing down rain on me, so. Um, yeah, tourmaline. Oh my god, my brain doesn't want to work. Right? Um, White maple is also sometimes considered a spiritual wood, right? Um, Birch is not the best for making thumping weapons, though. Birch is pokey weapons, I found. Let's see. Yeah, it really, really depends. And I mean, it also really depends on what you're using it against. I mean, I have heard of rakashas that um, if you touch them with a tiger eye opal, um, it seals them in. Yeah, true. But a good pointy, not a good thumpy. Yes, totally a good pointy. Um, I've also heard, yep, you. Sorry, I had to. I've also heard that, frick, right? I've heard of, oh my god, it's Alberta's national stone. Anyways, it is supposed to be used to reflect um, not just negativity, but straight up, oh my god, it should decide whether or not it's raining. Um, Might be. I can't remember. Obsidian for sure. Um, what's really funny is with the obsidian, depending on, like, I'm thinking of its usefulness against things, not just against as energy and so on and so forth. Um, Depending on its um, silica content, like if it's iron sand, it can actually be more effective. That shit is beautiful, by the way. It ends up with this red hue coming through the whole thing. Um, oh my god, my brain doesn't want to work a lot. And I'm literally looking at some of the stuff in here, and I just can't remember its names. What's kind of funny is you would think stuff like marble would actually be really good, but see, it depends on the rock crystal. Um, oh god, my time in geology is going to come out. Um, Crystalline rock formations have different stuff in them. Rock crystal, right? Rock crystal usually is like salt or rock candy. That's usually what people call rock crystal. Now I want rock candy. We have a place here called Fort Edmonton. It's just downtown. Yeah, right. Black tourmaline is beautiful. Um, Fort Edmonton sells stuff like they'll actually sell stones and stuff like that, usually just for tourists and stuff. But rock candy and the um, neighbors came out. Old school like sarsaparilla soda and stuff, like root beer with actual sarsaparilla root in it. It's really good stuff. It's very small amounts because apparently that shit's really bad for your liver in the long term. But yeah, I'm trying to think of other things. I've heard Spanish onion. Yeah, opals for sure. Um, hmm. Yeah, it really does depend. we'll have to do like a live, almost like a Q&A, I guess. And I'll get all my research and all the stones and stuff I have together. So, yeah. I just realized I've been yammering for an hour, and the last 15 minutes have just been this. So, I obviously need to get a coffee because I'm losing my voice. And I'm getting rained on. Ooh, that's nice. I'm trying to think, am I actually wearing anything? I'm wearing something, but it's that. And that's just the Meyerco Pinkerton Dirk. Ooh, yeah. Yeah, silver, obviously. Um, if anyone says titanium, I'm going to make fun of you because that's a Wolfen 2 reference. Yeah. Yeah, it is. Yeah. Well, I think that's probably going to be it for right now. Actually, if you guys want, do you guys want to do like a live kind of supernatural Q&A, you know, town hall kind of thing? Ooh, labradorite. Yes. Yes. Actually, that shit's beautiful. We have some. I got some for Nikki for a necklace. Trying to think. Nice. Ooh, let's grab you guys. And yeah, I think that's gonna be it. But yeah, remember, Canada's great except for the zombies. And yeah, I think maybe we'll do a live town hall or something like that. But yeah, for now, ciao guys, stay safe, and I'm gonna work on Mander's Taiaha because yeah, Buzzsaw. Oh yeah, Nephrite Jade is beautiful. Ciao guys.